What's up, everybody? It's your favorite gay-looking straight boy, Hunter Avalone here, back with another video. Today, we are talking about everybody's favorite subject, feminism. More specifically, a male feminist. And not just some guy who wants men and women to be equal or something. That's cool and based. This guy is a grotesque, horrifying, and sickening deviation from real, genuine feminism. And no, this is not a slur. He's a TERF. A trans-exclusionary radical feminist. Now, TERFs get quite sensitive. They claim that calling somebody a TERF is misogynistic or something. No, it literally is just the definition, like it describes somebody. This is our specimen today, Mr. Graham Linehan. Now, you might not recognize him, but he is a popular Irish screenwriter, and he's written some pretty popular shows a few decades ago. In the early 90s, he wrote a show called Father Ted, which was pretty popular, and then the one I'm familiar with, he also wrote The IT Crowd. But yeah, like I said, that was a decade or two ago, so he's obviously getting a little restless, slipping into some irrelevance here. Look, I get it. I know that sometimes boredom leads to bigotry. Graham Linehan has been kind of active on Twitter for a while. He was very anti-Gamergate at one point, but since like 2016, he has made it his life's mission to just attack trans people relentlessly. Back in 2018, Father Ted creator Graham Linehan compares trans activists to Nazis. The comedy writer and director has sparked controversy over the past few months with his views on transgender people and trans activists, which he claims threatens the safety of women. So yeah, just this right here, very standard TERF argument that trans women are actually dangerous men trying to hurt the women. The opposition is so extreme and so frightening that eventually everyone is asking you to stop. My feeling is that I can't because it's too important. It's too important to the women in my life, and it's too important to me. I'm now in a position where I can now answer the question honestly of, if you were around the time of something terrible happening like Nazism or whatever it happened to be, would you be one of the people who said, no, this is wrong despite being opposed? I feel happy in myself that I've been one of the people standing up and saying, no, this is wrong, despite everybody telling me not to do it. Now listen, I agree that you should not form your opinion based on what everybody's telling you what to believe or whatever, but I also think that if virtually everybody is telling you that your opinion is wrong, you might want to take a step back and assess that. But instead now he's saying because people get mad at him on Twitter for being transphobic, that's comparable to like the Nazis when you were too scared to speak out. You realize that one is a group of people fighting for their human rights, and the other was a authoritarian regime trying to strip people of their rights. Also, Nazis historically, and still do, despise trans people. So your comparison makes absolutely no sense. Some of Graham Linehan's transphobia comes from this straw man concept of what it even means to be transgender. The writer, who also wrote Black Books and The IT Crowd, continued, the thing I can easily see happening because I've had experience with these type of people already. What does that mean? Is someone in a changing room. A man walks in, absolutely no indication that he's a woman in any way. The woman challenges it. The man says, no, I'm sorry, I'm a woman. This is my female beard and this is my female penis. And you're guilty of hate speech. If you don't think that's gonna happen, I don't know what world you're living in because it's already happened. Well, I don't know if that has already happened or not, but even if it has, it's kind of irrelevant. Overall, no trans people are claiming that they have a female penis. Most trans people are painfully aware that their gender identity differs from their biological makeup. That's why a lot of trans people suffer from gender dysphoria. Secondly, this whole straw man that some burly man is gonna walk in with a bunch of girls changing and be like, this is my female beard and my dick and now you're guilty of hate speech, bitches. It's just ridiculous, and it's based on nothing but this caricature of what trans people are. Even the medical consensus for trans people, especially when they're dealing with gender dysphoria, is to socially transition. Most trans people are not walking around presenting as the opposite gender gender that they identify as. Most trans people are taking steps to identify and present as their gender identity. So I completely reject this bizarre straw man. Lastly, it's not even empirically sound. You can look at studies that have been done that have found that non-discrimination laws in public accommodations like locker rooms and restrooms lead to no increase in any kind of assaults. The study finds that the passage of such laws is not related to the number of frequency of criminal incidences in these spaces. Additionally, the study finds that reports of privacy and safety violations in public restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms are exceedingly rare. So yeah, this is already a rare thing. And finally, the final empirical note here is that trans people are actually more likely to be assault victims rather than perpetrators of assault. So on top of inventing a caricature straw man comparing trans people to the Nazis, he also said that fetishists, con men, and simply abusive misogynists are basically using the whole discussion as cover. I would say this is the most successful front in the war on women that I've ever seen. Now keep in mind, these TERF types oftentimes think what defines a woman is like your experience as a woman, even though every woman has a unique and different experience. But this is a repeated theme for Graham Lennon, is claiming that his blatant transphobia is actually just because he cares about the poor women or whatever. It's also funny that he says that the discussion about trans rights is somehow a successful front in the war on women, when he's using his faux feminism as an actual front here. He says how this is just too important to the women in his life. He's written blog posts about how he thinks the women are just so important and special. He claims that he's just doing all of this because misogynists are trying to push for trans rights to stomp on the women's safe space, when you can literally look at multiple different references multiple different times on his Twitter account where he was blatantly misogynistic. He called the women at a women's march in London traitors for daring to include trans people. He also refers to women who support trans rights or otherwise oppose him as handmaidens, a reference to a novel about an anti-feminist patriarchal dystopia. He's mentioned women on Twitter, talked about how she's completely fucked up her face. It just kind of gives me the feeling that this guy doesn't really care that much about being this ultimate feminist defender of the women. It seems a lot more like he just doesn't like trans people and is instead using this protect the women shtick as a front. Now, as Graham Lennon was driven more and more into transphobic insanity, he just began hitting new low after new low. 2 years ago, Graham Lennon was given a police warning after a complaint was filed by a transgender activist. He had been reported for transphobia after he referred to her as a he and for dead naming her. He also leaked photos of this person before they transitioned and allegedly doxed them as well. Now, Lennon alleges that this trans activist posted several addresses linked to his family in an attempt to shut me up. I believe this trans activist did go on to sue him, but the case was later dropped. So that's nice. When you're so obsessed with dunking on trans people, you literally leak their private information and have to be given a slap on the wrist by your local police. A little bit later on, Graham Cracker made it very vocal that he was against a charity which provides a range of services for transgender youth and their families. Now, as we know, with the high suicide rate among trans people, the more clinics that offer care, the better. But since Graham Lennon thinks that the trans agenda means giving every little girl who says she likes the color blue hormones instantly, he of course opposed this. I also remember when he compared giving trans kids puberty blockers to Nazis experimenting on people. Does this guy know that puberty blockers have been used for decades and the FDA has already approved their use for cisgender kids who enter puberty too early? Another time, Graham decided to gather up a bunch of gender-critical mental health professionals to help trans individuals, which, let's be honest, that was just conversion therapy with another name. Anytime you are trying to make somebody deny their gender identity, whether it's by shocking them silly or counseling them out of it or anything at all, that is a form of conversion therapy. So Graham Lennon started this after he put out a call in order to create a list of gender-critical therapists. On behalf of this woman who is a psychotherapist who reckons she would have been pushed to transition as a child since she grew up a tomboy. This despite the World Health Organization's international classification of diseases, diagnostic criteria for gender identity disorder of childhood, specifically stating mere tomboyishness is not sufficient for diagnosis. Sounds like this is the lady who needs the counseling. So Graham Lennon is claiming this isn't conversion therapy, it's gender critical therapy. But the goal of both is to make the person not be trans, which has been condemned by virtually every medical institution and has been consistently demonstrated to be harmful. Graham Lennon continued to just obsessively tweet, spiraling deeper and deeper into insanity. In January of 2020, a comedian, Frank Boyle, tweeted at Graham and said, quote, "I've already told you I'm going to have to block you. I think you're neurotically obsessed with some stuff that is doing you no good / worry you have some kind of internet addiction." But finally, Graham Lennon was suspended from Twitter. And honestly, that's probably the best for this guy's mental health. The Father Ted creator Graham Lennon has been permanently suspended from Twitter for breaching the site's rules on banned words. Twitter said the account, which uses the handle @Glinner, had been suspended after repeated violations of our rules against hateful conduct and platform manipulation. Graham Lennon, who constantly was using his Twitter with over 600,000 followers to rail against the trans agenda ideology or something, he was understandably pretty crushed by this. I mean, earlier on in his career, he even said that Twitter was like his lifeblood. I mean, he was obsessed with this website, but he just couldn't stop himself from being blatantly transphobic and violating TOS, so he was banned. But he wasn't going to be shut up that quick and easy. No, he went on to try and make his own website, Grindr.org. Yeah, for a guy who really is against trans people, his website sounds eerily similar to Grindr. His website did not last long, and they are not accepting new users. Also, I feel like I'm literally about to have a seizure here. I mean, look at this. Constant movement, constant jumping around. There needs to be an epilepsy warning. Not content with his failed website, Graham tried to evade his ban by getting back on Twitter, and this time posing as a transgender man. I know, so clever, so funny, right? And he used his fake account to tweet at some other guy and call him a traitor to women, gay people, and yourself because he signed an open letter published by the Transgender Equality Network of Ireland. Come on, dude, just let it go. You have your own little seizure website. You don't need to jump on here and try to pose as a trans person. You're not clever or funny. But he wasn't done yet. You see, he decided I might as well try and profit off of me being a huge transphobe and losing my gigantic Twitter account. So he decided to start posting on this website called Substack, where you have to pay $49.99 a year just to read his little blog posts. I'm pretty sure you can see transphobia for free anywhere you want on the internet. Why in the world would I pay you $50 a year? Talk about desperation. Now, it turns out that not only did this guy lose his Twitter account, but he's begun losing money as well. In March of 2021, Lennon said that his activism had cost him work because he refused to work with Channel 4 because they took down a pretty explicitly transphobic episode of his show that aired in like 2006 or 2008. So just because they took down like one episode of his, he refused to work with them. And he also refused to work with the BBC because they depicted a transgender couple existing in a kid's show. Talk about a snowflake refusing to work with the BBC for simply saying trans people exist. A little while later, he decided to pull another stunt. He decided to join a lesbian dating app to show how dangerous the transes were. So he joined Her, a dating app designed to connect women and queer people, and shared a screenshot of his profile on his personal blog. He says he identifies as lesbian queer questioning and claims he uses she and her pronouns. He also went on to claim that trans people using the app put cis women in danger. So isn't this ironic? This guy spiels on and on about how the trans women are invading the women's spaces, and yet now this male feminist is invading women's spaces. But my friends, the saga now reaches a devastating conclusion. Graham Lennon reveals financial woes due to his trans stance caused his marriage to break down. I've been a victim of people being mean to me on Twitter. I've also lost work. As a result of my sudden financial insecurity, my marriage was placed under such a severe strain that my wife and I finally agreed to separate. Damn, dude. I mean, come on. You say that you care so much about women. Your whole excuse for being a vitriolic transphobe is because you care too much about the precious women in your life, but yet you're forgetting about the woman who should matter the most in your life. It's really kind of sad, man. Well, there you guys have it. The once successful screenwriter, now a disgraced loser, swiping left and right on a lesbian dating app. Feels bad, man. Please give this video a like, comment below, and subscribe to the channel. This video was made possible by the generous support from my patrons. If you want to help support the channel, get cool benefits, and have your name featured on my channel, then become a patron by clicking the link down below. Thanks, guys.